Hello, this video is very interesting and very informative. While solving these 7 questions, you will learn different techniques involving ratios. I'll be putting some alternate methods in the description as well. Do go through them. Each and every part of this question has been carefully designed to teach you something new. So take your time, pause and attempt all these parts and then move forward. This first statement, which says incomes of A and B are in ratio 8:5, this part is common to all the questions. Okay? Just pause the video and attempt them all and then move forward. Let's start with part A of the question. If the incomes of A and B are in ratio 8:5, find the ratio of savings if the ratio of expenses is also 8:5. So ratio of income and expenses of A and B are known to us. We can assume the actual values of incomes to be 8x and 5x. Similarly, expenses can be assumed from the given ratio as 8x and 5x, right? Wrong. The two ratios, ratio of income and ratio of expenses, are independent of each other. So if we have assumed incomes as 8x and 5x, that means we have assumed xth multiple of 8:5. Okay, the proportionality constant here is of x. It is x. Then the expenses need not be same multiple of 8:5. The proportionality constant for expenses need not be same as that of incomes. So we will use y to represent them. Okay, we will use y to represent the expenses. Expenses will be 8y and 5y. After solving, x and y might turn out to be the same, but as income and expenses ratios are independent of each other, we need to use different variables x and y to represent them. Okay, got it? Now, savings of A would be income of A minus expense of A, that is 8x minus 8y. And savings of B would be income of B minus expense of B, that is 5x minus 5y. Take ratio of savings. 8 and 5 will come out common and ratio will be 8:5. Okay. If x and y are equal, in case when x and y are equal, that means income will be equal to expense. Amdani 98, kharcha bhi 98. There won't be any saving for A as well as B. Next question. Incomes are in ratio 8:5. Expenses are in ratio 10:11. Let's try to find out ratio of savings first. Incomes would be 8x and 5x and expenses would be 10y and 11y. Y for the expenses, right? 10y and 11y. Savings of A would be 8x minus 10y and savings for B would be 5x minus 11y. Now this ratio of savings cannot be simplified further. Okay, we cannot take out anything common and we cannot cancel anything. This ratio cannot be simplified further. In other words, we cannot find the exact ratio of savings. So when both income and expenses are in same ratio, as in previous case, okay, when both income and expenses are in same ratio, then savings will also be in the same ratio as of income and expenses, as it happened in part A of this question. And when ratio of income and expenses are different, the ratio of savings cannot be calculated. And that's the reason the question says, who saves more? Can we get that? Who saves more? Let's see. Let's find out. From the income ratio itself, we can see that A's income is more than B's income. Okay. Whereas from the expense ratio, we can say that A's expenses are less than B's expense. So for A, income is more and expenses are less. Obviously, that means A is going to save more. Got it? For A, income is more and expenses are less. So A will be saving more. Moving on to the next case. Well, this case is going to be a little complicated. So just stay with me. A earns more than B, but also spends more than B. More accurately, considering the percentage change, we can say that A earns 60% more than B and spends 66.66% more than B. If we take the case when income is much greater than the expense, or expenses are very small compared to the income, and as expenses are very small, A's expense would be slightly more than B's expense. They will be very close to each other. Given below are some values, some example values to explain this thing better. A earns 800 rupees and B earns 500. Their expenses are 50 and 30. Okay, expenses are very small. 50 and 30 are very small as compared to 800 and 500. And 50 and 30 are very close to each other. Their expenses are close to each other. We have maintained the ratios given in the question while assuming these values. Okay. Now both these expenses are small as compared to the incomes, and these expenses are close to each other as well. As A's income is so much more than B, A would be saving more. A's income is so much more than B and expenses are close to each other. So A would be saving more. In this case, we can see A saves 750 rupees and B saves 470. A will be saving more. Now we have case 2. When expenses are almost near to the income. Okay, expenses are very close to the income. For example, we have taken values here. A earns 800 rupees and B earns 500 rupees. Their expenses are 800 and 480. For A, I have taken expense equal to the income, and for B, the expense 480 is very close to the income 500. Okay, expenses are very close to the income. Now, A's expense is 66.66% more than B's expense, and extra expense of A will offset the 60% extra income that he earns. In this case, A saves less. In the table also we can see that A saves nothing, whereas B saves 20 rupees. So B saves more. So all in all, considering the two tables, considering the two cases when income is way bigger than the expense and when income and expenses are very close to each other, considering these two cases, we can say that we can never be sure about who saves more. We cannot say for sure that who saves more. Let's move on to the next case. Ratio of expense now is 4:3. Okay. This case might appear to be very similar to the previous case, but you will soon realize that it is different. Ratio of expense now is 4:3. Exact ratio of savings cannot be determined, but we can say for sure that who saves more. Let's see how. Let's find out. A earns 60% more than B and spends around 33.33% more than B. Okay. Difference in expense is very little, but extra income that A earns is way more now. So even if expenses are close to income, A will be saving more in this case. Take your time and go through these tables. These tables for the two cases. Take your time and go through all the values. And you can see in both the cases, case 1, when expenses are small as compared to the income, or case 2 when expenses are very close to the income. In both these cases, you will realize that A saves more. So we use logic supported by values, and we can say that for certain value of ratios, we can conclusively say who saves more, like in this case, A saves more. But in some cases, it cannot be determined, as we saw in the previous case, previous part C of this question, it cannot be determined that who saves more. Okay, for some value of ratios, we can say who saves more. For some value of ratios, it cannot be determined. So I hope all 4 parts that we have discussed so far are clear to you. Put your doubts in the comments or mail them at support@gofodu.com, and we'll be solving rest of the questions in the next video. Thank you.